It all depends on finding the right quarterback. I'm not just talking about win-loss record next season, but who else Tennessee could be getting in the transfer portal. Transfer portal talk here on a Thursday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Thursday morning Locked On Vols, presented by our friends over at FanDuel, where right now new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Grant Ramey going to join the show coming up, my colleague over at VolQuest.com, to talk about his take on the Nico Iamaleava situation, and then in segment 3 about the latest in Tennessee basketball and the transfer portal, plus high school recruiting, all that and more coming up. But first here in segment number 1, finding a quarterback and that said quarterback, that fit, all that and more, it's going to affect everything. I mean, Tennessee, again, has needs at wide receiver. Tennessee has needs at defensive tackle. Tennessee potentially could have the need if the best available is out there at cornerback. So there are some things Tennessee needs to accomplish over the next couple of weeks, but none of that can happen until we figure out who Tennessee is going to get from the NCAA transfer portal. That is your show coming up here today. I'm Eric Cain. Thank you so much for being here. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Vols, it's been popping the last couple of weeks. Big stories will do that. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new to the show, hey, thanks for being here. We do this every day, okay? We do this every single weekday. On into football season, we talk football, recruiting, we talk basketball, we talk baseball. This is your one-stop daily podcast for the Tennessee Volunteers. It is Locked On Vols, and again, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Every dayers couldn't do it without you. So Tennessee's got to get a quarterback, right? Tennessee has got to get a quarterback, and Josh Heupel pretty much confirmed that on Saturday due to only having 2 scholarship quarterbacks on roster right now in Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre.
Well, we're having open tryouts right after this. Hub's already hit me about his ability to throw the ball, so nah. Anytime your roster has the opportunity to change, that's in December, that's in the spring, right? As we go through the process, you're always evaluating what you have on your roster, where you're, I'm going to say vulnerable, where numbers might not be right, injuries, whatever, and you're trying to get your roster to where it needs to be to give yourself the best chance when you get to kick off in the fall. And, you know, certainly with only 2 scholarship players at the quarterback position, you know, we're going to have to find another guy.
Yeah, we're going to have to find another guy. That's kind of how we ended it right there. And we talked all week long a little bit, you know, could this guy be a depth piece? I mean, regardless, considering what you have right now in George McIntyre, who is a true freshman early enrollee, and Jake Merklinger, who is a redshirt freshman, when you say quote-unquote depth piece, at minimum, that guy's going to come in and have a good chance of winning the job, right? Because you're going to compete, and you want an ongoing competition at quarterback. I don't think unless it's a sitting power 4 quarterback that's got great numbers, I don't think anything's going to be anointed by whoever Tennessee gets from the portal. I think this is going to be an ongoing quarterback battle on into fall camp, as it should be. But Tennessee needs to add a quarterback. We know that. That's no secret. Only 2 scholarship quarterbacks, no gas pipe anymore. That needs to happen. So as the portal officially opened yesterday, and at the time of this recording, there's no really names linked to Tennessee just yet, but there's been reports out there, and it makes sense, right, that Tennessee can pretty much get their foot in the door. I think this was a report from ESPN on Wednesday, that Tennessee can pretty much get their foot in the door with any quarterback in the country, right? Because, again, like I said earlier this week, and, you know, keys to the Ferrari, maybe a bit modest there, maybe overblown, and I knew that. But, I mean, you got a really good roster. You got a win-now roster, okay? You get a quarterback that comes in, you can go win some games. And I'm not going to sit here and bash Nico, because you guys know me. I think Nico was far from perfect last year. I think he was far from horrible. I think he was okay. Did he live up to expectations in his first year as a starting quarterback? No, he did not. I've never said he didn't. But you guys know that I think he's an immense talent. I think that he's eventually going to be a good quarterback one day. But still, you look at his stats on paper, those are very replaceable stats on paper from last year. And it takes 2 to tango. It takes a whole lot more to win games. And Tennessee had a great run game. Tennessee had a great defense. But Tennessee was a college football playoff team. So my point is, what Nico did on the field last year, and he made throws to beat Alabama. He was a starting quarterback that was a part of a college football playoff team and, had victories against Alabama and Florida. Like, it's anybody pretending that he was just awful, that is far from accurate. That is far from accurate, okay? You can't just minimize those things. But you can get better quarterback play from what we saw last year. You can. And there's a great opportunity here to get that in the transfer portal. So, Tennessee's going to have that opportunity to go and win some games next year. It's very appealing to said players that might be thinking about jumping in the transfer portal. But with back channels and agents and third parties and everything, just because a player is not in the transfer portal doesn't mean that they're not exploring options or people are telling them things. I mean, that's just how the world works. That's just how college football works, right? So I'm going to be interested to see who jumps in the portal. If anybody jumps in the portal with a no contact tag over the next couple of days, going to be interesting to me for sure. Josh Heupel, a little bit of a longer quote about coming together, rallying this team, but how he's won with so many different quarterbacks. I played it, I think, on Sunday morning. I'm going to play it again. I love this quote here from Josh Heupel. I think this is it. Let's see. Grow together. Rip the Band-Aid off, grow together, and then he talks about how he's won with so many different quarterbacks. And this is interesting because we don't know exactly what type of quarterback he's going to be looking for in the portal, but the fact that he's got experience coaching different ones and winning with all these different quarterbacks, that should resonate.
If it's going to happen, rip the Band-Aid too. At the end of the day, we got a lot of great work for the two guys that are here, and we got a chance to move forward as a program. So it's unfortunate. Just in the landscape of college football that this happens at this point. But, I told our coaches yesterday afternoon when we had a staff meeting, I said, if it's going to happen, and sometimes it happens through injury, game 5, game 6. I've had it in my career where I lost starting quarterback before we started training camp, the day of the start of training camp. And at the end of the day, this is the greatest team game there is. And, that group where we lost them on day 1, they rallied together. Adversity, when it strikes, you got 2 choices. It can bring you together or divide you. That group came together and ultimately went on and won a conference championship that year. And this group inside of that locker room, they're tough, they're competitive, they care about each other, and we got to grow together.
So finding that quarterback is going to be fun. It's going to be fun over the next couple of days and seeing what that fit is. But again, it's going to affect, what Tennessee does at receiver. It's going to affect what Tennessee does at defensive tackle or whatever. How much money is it going to take for Tennessee to find a portal quarterback to come in here? Is it going to take $1 million? Is it going to take $500,000? Is it going to take $1.8 million? I don't know. But remember, you are saving money now, okay, from what you were going to be paying Nico Iamaleava. You would think that in principle, that means the pot is a little bit bigger, right? Can you overspend? Does that mean you can go and overspend to find a quarterback right now to go and win with this win now roster? I mean, there's no mulligans here, okay? Fans and media alike, national media too. Everybody's with Tennessee right now. Like, hey, great job, Josh Heupel. Hey, enough's enough. That's great. Is that energy going to keep up in October when you lose a game you're not supposed to? No, it's not. That's just not how this works from a fan's perspective or from a media's perspective, okay? So you need to go and have a quarterback that can win now. So can you overspend for a 1-year rental? Are you going to go and get a guy with multi-years left? I don't think that would be the smart move, but again, because you don't want to rock the boat with Jake, George, and Faison Brandon, who's not even on campus yet. But still, at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers. If you have a guy coming off his freshman year that wants to come to Tennessee, boy, if he's your best option, you got to take him. But all this conversation is going to affect who you can find at wide receiver. If I'm a wide receiver in the transfer portal right now, heck no, I don't want to come to Tennessee until I know who the quarterback is. Like, why would I? If it's all about the money, show me the bag, then I'll come. But if I'm Tennessee, in terms of allocating those resources, that would be not a very smart business decision because you need some funds to secure a quarterback. So again, it all affects. And the poor defensive tackle that just needs a body. Gosh, needs a body of defensive tackle. I mean, that's probably on 3rd, 4th priority on the list right now. This week's going to be fun. The next couple of weeks are going to be fun. I think Tennessee's going to have to move fast in terms of the quarterback because you need to get this settled. It is April the 17th, okay? April 16th at the time of this recording. things need to get settled. You're in a predicament, but just like you're trying to rebuild a basketball roster after an Elite Eight run, it's kind of exciting too, especially when you know everything you still have on this roster in terms of the talent and the terms of experience in some places. So quarterback in the transfer portal, man, it's going to be a time finding who Tennessee's connected with, who Tennessee ultimately brings in, and how that affects the rest of the ongoing needs at wide receiver, defensive tackle, so on and so forth. Grant Ramey, his take on who's in the wrong here. Is it Nico Iamaleava? Is it Tennessee? Or is it those surrounding Nico Iamaleava? That is coming up next right here as we continue on with this edition of Locked On Vols. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to that next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Visit Upwork.com today, right now, and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Again, it can be for a long-term partner or you just need some extra hands for a project. Find the good help at Upwork. Again, that's Upwork.com, Upwork.com. Hey, Grant Ramey, the transfer portal is officially open. Tennessee obviously in the market for a quarterback, and as I spoke on in segment number one, that's gonna affect what Tennessee does in terms of finding a receiver, in my opinion, because a receiver, who, if I'm a receiver being coveted by Tennessee in the transfer portal, I want to know who the quarterback is. What's your plan at quarterback? How much money do you have left over to allow me to get mine? And so it's going to affect a lot of different things. Having said all that, man, I mean, Tennessee's in this position because of a nasty breakup with Nico Iamaleava after spring practice, essentially. Your take on the overall saga that is. It's unfortunate on a number of levels, but it's obviously the biggest story in sports right now that keeps developing in terms of, he said this happened then, this school is pulling out of the Nico race now. I mean, it just continues to get, I'm not going to say better, but more interesting as the hours go on.
It's interesting because it's kind of the first time it's ever really happened where a school's been like, you know what, we're not going to do this. Like, we're not going to meet the demands. We're not going to pay whatever you're looking for, kind of call your bluff. And he ended up walking and they end up parting ways. It's unfortunate, timing wise for both Nico and for Tennessee, because this just shouldn't be happening in April. This has to happen in December. Like, if you're not happy, especially if you're a starting quarterback, if you're wanting more money and you think you're not going to get it, you better handle your business in December. And if you don't think you're going to get your money, you better find your next spot, because at this point, April, whatever it is, 16th, 17th, like, it's tough to, on this short of a time frame, to go find a place to call your next home. Like, who's in the market for a quarterback right now? From Tennessee's side, it's going to be tough to get a quarterback, a guy that can just step in and on an expedited timeline, figure this stuff out. Like, it's just a really, really tough situation. I'm getting to the point where I feel bad for Nico because of, I don't think it's been handled great around him. I don't know what his professional representation looks like, but I think it needs an overhaul because of the way decisions have been made and the way this whole thing is played out. But Nico has been kind of almost a case study from the start, because he was like the first big NIL quarterback money figure next to his name, 5-star guy, ranked number 1, all that stuff. And it's just been, and now it feels like you've come full circle where he's a little bit of a case study again, like how not to handle your business. Like, you can't be doing this in April. You can't be holding out. You can't be skipping practice. You can't be not communicating with your coaches for an entire day because if you don't have a landing spot already signed, sealed, and delivered, you're taking a huge gamble in April, and we're kind of seeing that play out right now.
Yeah, be careful though if you're too complimentary of Nico. Some of these fans will come in and say you're still kissing his butt when he's not here. So you got to take that in consideration. I'm joking. I'm with you, man. Like, the grand scheme of things, I've said this a couple times this week, and I'm not going to harp on it. Like, I feel bad for Nico in the majority of the situation. Now, I will say this: end of the day, this is where I may be different from you or some others. I don't know. I think where you draw that line in terms of, I feel bad for Nico in terms of this is all Nico's fault. Friday morning.
Right.
Friday morning. Sure, he was advised not to go to practice. That's when, if you were still going to leave, you're still going to break up, you got to handle it differently. pick up the phone and call your head coach. Pick up the phone and call your quarterback coach, your OC. Don't leave your teammates out to dry. Hell, go to practice, sit off to the side like you see in NFL training camps, like, oh, this guy's out of practice, but he's not doing anything. Whatever. Just the way that was handled Friday morning, I think, is really what threw salt in all the wounds. And it's just that's where I get the gross breakup sense, is when Nico ghosted his teammates essentially on a Friday morning practice. That is where I say, okay, as a competitor, as a player, that's on you. But overall, it's just it's a gross whole thing.
Yeah, and holdouts happen in the NFL. Obviously, every single season, every offseason, all that stuff. Every time free agency or contracts come up, there's going to be holdouts, and sometimes it gets nasty. But in the NFL, you have a standard contract that holds you to something. You have agents, representation that have to be certified by the NFL Players Association. Like, there's a little bit more of a standard and an expected nature of the whole thing and how it's going to play out at the NFL level, because it's happened for so long. It's been, this is all new at college football. And this is, like you're talking about, this is not how to not handle it. You can't skip practice. You can't be out of contact with your coaching staff. And when I say I feel sorry for Nico with the way this is all playing out, I don't think Tennessee did anything wrong. Tennessee stood its ground. Tennessee was complimentary of Nico on the way out. Josh Heupel, after the Orange and White game on Saturday, said he thanked Nico for his time here, going back to his recruitment and all that stuff. Tennessee had to draw a line. They drew the line, and they didn't make any exceptions. I mean, they parted ways with their quarterback because their quarterback didn't show up for practice and didn't communicate what was going on. And it's just been a mess since Thursday when Pete Nakos wrote the initial stuff about the contract and the negotiations and all that stuff. You can't negotiate publicly, because once you start negotiating publicly, you start losing fans. Like, this guy got a lot of money up front. Now he's asking for more money. I don't think it's unfair to think the quarterback market has been reset and maybe he could be owed a little bit more money, but it's also, he's got a little bit more to do to prove it on the field, I guess, to get that much more money. But once it becomes public, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fair. I mean, the quarterback market has reset. It's why every, NFL free agent quarterback, gets a massive deal, because they either reset the market or based on what this player got paid, I'm worth this amount of money. I mean, it's like outrageous every single offseason in the month of February and March. For Nico, and that's what, like, the negotiations, I mean, that's your right. Like, I have no issue with that. It's where you started, what you've done, and what you're asking for. And some of these reports out there, we'll never know. We're not in those rooms. We're not privy to those conversations. But some of these reports out there about what the asking price is for Nico Iamaleava right now, it's why at the time of this recording, there's no suitors. I mean, in fact, there's a report out from ESPN on a Wednesday morning that teams are out not because they don't like the player. It's just, why on earth am I going to pay that much money for the product that we see in Nico Iamaleava right now? It's he's going to have to, his camp's going to have to bring down that price tag, or he's going to be in limbo for the next couple of days, and it's going to continue to get even more ugly.
Yeah, and as the clock ticks, it just keeps getting worse. Like, Tennessee needs a quarterback yesterday to figure out the situation, to supply the depth and all that stuff, and maybe it's a starter, maybe it's a depth piece, whatever. But you got to figure that out as quickly as you can. Well, the same thing for Nico, maybe even more so, because he's got to find a home. And if North Carolina's out, when North Carolina was rumored to be in it, Tulane was rumored to be in it. Now Tulane's out. UCLA was kind of one of the first schools that kind of popped up as this might be the landing spot. It feels like that hasn't really gone anywhere since then. USC and Oregon were mentioned, kind of up front. Notre Dame as well. Well, those three are out pretty quickly. Like, the longer this thing goes on and the longer he doesn't have a home, the tougher it gets for his situation, because you already have a half an off season, and it just gets shorter with each passing day.
If I'm UCLA, like, why on earth are you even entertaining this? I mean, sure, you need a quarterback, and sure, Nico's a great talent, but you had little brother Madden committed, and I don't remember how it played out. Either it was on signing day, right before signing day, or whatever. He flips, and it's like,
it was him and a receiver, right? I believe it was him and a receiver that both flipped from UCLA to Arkansas on signing day. So yeah, that's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. Transfer portal officially opened yesterday. There's a lot of names thrown out there and everything, and we'll, it'll take a little while to sift through what's real, what's not. We'll see what's going on. But when you're looking at who Tennessee could potentially get from the portal, kind of what's your take on this? Earlier in the week, I was kind of like, man, it's be tough for a sitting Power 4 starting quarterback to want to jump ship because of where you are on the calendar, especially if it's in a contract year. you're just kind of putting yourself behind the 8 ball with the NFL being the end goal. Having said that, the flip side, as I talk out of both sides of my mouth here, Tennessee's got a roster that, in my opinion, is still, boy, it's 10-win ready. It's knocking on the door of the playoff ready, okay? You can make some money here, okay? I mean, you are Andy and Ari at On 3 did it earlier this week. I mean, you're in a really good situation here. So how do you see this playing out in terms of the type of quarterback, the where that said quarterback comes from, or do you think it's a backup right now, or maybe a guy that's a backup that's got starting experience? I mean, there's beggars can't be choosers right now. Tennessee needs a body no matter what, but I think there's a couple of different ways that this can play out in terms of who eventually comes to Tennessee at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it depends obviously on who enters the portal. I think it would be a much different situation if it was December and not April, and you had a full offseason ahead of you. And obviously the December portal window is usually much busier, much more players in there than the spring window. I would assume. I don't know what the specific numbers are or what it's tracked in the past, but yeah, beggars can't be choosers. Also, you just got to trust your evaluations. You got to, like, if you think these two guys on roster, George McIntyre and Jake Merklinger, could be the guys, then maybe you're looking for more of a depth piece. If you think you can find somebody that you've heard is about to is willing to move or is going to get in the portal, and you think they could come in and be a day one starter, like Tennessee's future at the quarterback position seems like it's in good hands because you have a George McIntyre freshman on roster. You got Faison Brandon in 2026. I mean, you're okay at the position, but it's, what's for 2025? Like, what's the answer? Like, you got to be quickly figuring out what that answer is. If it's a guy on roster, if it's not a guy on roster, if it's a depth piece you're looking for, if it's a one-year starter kind of situation that you're looking for. A lot of stuff would have to line up for it to be that one-year guy. That could happen, but it's just going to depend on who enters the portal, what your evaluations are, how quickly you can find a match.
The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel has given new customers an incredible way to get in on all the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes everything so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into the player props. From three-pointers to assists to block shots, from steals, FanDuel has so many different ways to bet on all your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win even more, right? I mean, it's endless over there at FanDuel Sportsbook. So don't miss out. You can head on over to FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That is FanDuel.com to claim your $250 bonus bets today. All that and more on the safe, secure, easy-to-use app. That is FanDuel. Obviously, the story of the week, the story for the next couple of weeks, potentially, it's Tennessee looking for a quarterback. Tennessee's got to find a quarterback. Tennessee in the transfer portal, wide receiver, defensive tackle. Obviously, we're talking about that every single day. But what started a couple weeks ago before the Nico Iamaleava saga, post Tennessee losing in the Elite Eight to Houston, was Tennessee in the basketball transfer portal. Off to a good start and still looking to add to some more. Before we get into portal targets, let's start at the prep level. Tennessee announced the signing on Wednesday of Troy Henderson, AAU teammates with Nate Amin, who I'll speak on here in just a moment. A guy that was a late commit in this class. Obviously, he committed a couple weeks ago. And is he a guy that is going to maybe factor in at all? Is he going to be a depth piece, a redshirt guy? What is the role envisioned for Troy Henderson next season for Tennessee basketball?
I think he's a depth piece and a potential redshirt target. A three-star, kind of like you're talking about, a late addition, committed late March, signed this week. Three-star guy from Virginia. He was signed with Fordham previously. Fordham's coach had a coaching change, and he got released from his signing there and hit the open market. Tennessee saw him and liked him and got him on board. I think he's a guy that's a little bit more down the road. They've signed Amari Evans, a guard in this class. You still have Bishop Boswell on roster. You just got Jacoby Gillespie out of the transfer portal from Maryland to be your starting point guard. But you know what, Rick Barnes, at this point, I think you trust his evaluations with point guards. Obviously, Zakai Ziegler was a pretty similar situation where it's a three-star. Nobody really knew who he was. Now, I shouldn't mention those two guys in the same breath because you're comparing them to pretty elite company. But if Rick Barnes wants you on his basketball team and you're a point guard, especially it doesn't matter if you're five-star, no star, two-star, three-star, whatever, that bodes well for you. I think, Rick thinks he's a three-level scorer. Rick thinks he's a pass-first point guard. All the stuff that you kind of need. Physically, he's going to have to play the game. He's going to have to be really good defensively, obviously, to stay on the floor for Tennessee. But I think they're bringing him in as a guy that they think they can develop and turn into a good player down the road.
Let's go to the transfer, or no, actually, let's stay prep. Nate Ament, 5-star. What's the latest this week with him? I feel like he's really helped himself out by not committing anywhere, just kind of dragging this out. He just continues, I feel like, making more money. But, Louisville was in there early on, maybe Arkansas. Duke has always been in there. It feels like, tell me if I'm wrong, Tennessee and a Duke battle right now. And we know how challenging that is going to be to, beat a team like Duke, a blue blood anyway, but obviously the resources they have right now. Where is Tennessee with Nate Ament? We know Rick Barnes all in on Nate Ament. He wants him to be a part of this program.
He is all in on Nate Ament. We went to see Nate Ament on Monday. That was a pretty significant development in that recruitment and just how all in Tennessee is there. The whole thing the last couple of weeks has been, well, Nate's going to go to the Nike Hoop Summit in Oregon. That was this past weekend, and then kind of go from there. I think he said while he was out there in Oregon, I think he told reporters maybe in a week or two that he was hoping to have a decision made. He released his top 5 back in like February. It was Louisville, Duke, Tennessee, Kentucky. Who am I blanking on? I can't remember, but it feels like Tennessee, Duke, and Louisville at this point. Arkansas, that's right. Yeah. So as this kind of develops, Tennessee was out of it for a little bit. It felt like the ship had sailed. It was over. And then it felt like Tennessee circled back around the last few weeks and have gone all back in on him for whatever reason. I think that maybe speaks to the options in the portal, and maybe they think this guy could help them as much as any option in the portal. Obviously, he's a top 5 consensus player. He is a 5-star across the board. He's the top not committed player in this class remaining. So obviously it's going to be a bidding war. I think Tennessee's willing to pay whatever the price is, but I think obviously Duke's going to pay that similar price, and you're recruiting against a blue blood Duke basketball program that's pretty tough. I don't know where Louisville really fits in the equation. It feels like they've faded recently. I don't think it's going to be Kentucky. I don't think it's going to be Arkansas. So you're kind of looking at those 3 teams and kind of playing a waiting game. I think Rick and his staff are doing everything they can in this recruitment, but you got to when you're battling the Dukes of the world, it's going to be tough.
LMU transfer Elijah Freeman on campus yesterday. I asked you in the Tuesday VolQuest podcast how in the world this guy made it to LMU and not to a Power 4 program when he can go wherever he wants to right now, right?
Right.
What about his game? Why is everybody wanting him now? And kind of where does Tennessee, and I know you need to speak to some people after this visit wraps up, but where does Tennessee stand with Elijah Freeman?
Very interesting prospect because he's a 6'8" freshman and he's from Florida, and how he gets to Lincoln Memorial, like we were talking about the other day, I don't know. He averaged, I think, 19, 9, and 3, and I think he shot at like 46 or 47% from the 3-point line. So that's what kind of athlete he is. That's what kind of scorer he is. And now, a year later, he's got Auburn wanting him. He's got Tennessee wanting him. He's got Indiana wanting him. Like, that's how quickly things can change. I think those are the 3 teams that are kind of in focus right now. He was at Indiana a couple weeks ago. He was at Auburn this past weekend. And he's obviously had Tennessee. He's had Rick Barnes come see him late last week. And then, obviously, he scheduled a Tennessee visit as well. So I think Tennessee's in the thick of it for that one. I think he's a very interesting prospect. I don't know if he's more of a developmental piece, almost kind of like a Jordan Gainey, where you bring him in and develop, and in that second year he takes off. But he's going to be a good basketball player for somebody. It's going to be interesting kind of to watch that D2 to high major D1 transition and how quickly it happens.
Trying to go look up the Carson Newman basketball schedule to see how many points he got in historic Holt Fieldhouse. But it sounds like my internet's not one to help me out here. Probably a lot. And then finally, Rodney Rice, man, former teammate of Maryland, Jacoby Gillespie. We know Jacoby wants him to play here. It felt like Tennessee, Villanova. Now USC's gotten a visit here earlier this week. What's the latest in Rodney Rice? And it feels like from the outside, Grant, that this one was very, I don't want to say close, but Tennessee was right there. And Tennessee's still right there, but it feels like it's opened a little bit this week, obviously with a lot more suitors and probably some more money. Yeah,
there's been some developments there where coming off the Tennessee visit, he kind of indicated that he was probably done taking visits and he might do some Zoom calls or stuff like that. And then a few days later, he had a USC visit scheduled for Wednesday. And he's been to Tennessee. Obviously, he's been to Villanova. He did those trips back-to-back over the weekend, and then he's going to USC. What Tennessee has to sell Rodney Rice that nobody else has, obviously, is Jacoby Gillespie. That was his teammate. That was his roommate. They were one of the best backcourts in the Big Ten. They went to the Sweet 16 because of those 2 guys and Derek Queen. So there's a certain standard they've set where they've won a lot of basketball games, and Rodney Rice talked about this after his visit to Tennessee. He wants to win. He wants to get past the Sweet 16. Well, you look at USC, they went 17-18 last year. You look at Villanova, it's Kevin Willard going from Maryland to Villanova. So obviously he's starting over there and building a roster there. And Villanova has struggled the last few years. That's why they had a coaching change. So you look at personnel-wise, Tennessee's got the player that he probably wants to play with the most, not probably does want to play with the most, in Jacoby Gillespie. And Tennessee's been to back-to-back Elite Eights. So they have that to sell to them. But at the same time, Villanova's probably a lot more desperate. USC might be a little bit more desperate in terms of money and willing to throw crazy numbers at this kid. I don't know what Tennessee's number is. I think Tennessee's fine spending money, but you're just trying to balance it out with the rest of the roster and all this other stuff, all these other slots you have to fill. So with Nate Amend, it's a waiting game. With Rodney Rice, it's a waiting game, trying to figure out where he goes next and kind of what his timeline is moving forward.
Really appreciate Grant Ramey for stopping by the show here today, giving me some extended time, segments 2 and 3, talking, getting his take on the whole Nico Iamaleava situation. I know a lot of you guys are probably tired of talking about it right now, but it's the biggest story in college sports. I mean, it's bigger than Tennessee, really. When you think about the full circle, the course corrector, and all that, what could happen. Then, of course, now we're really, with the portal opening, we're going to start hearing names pretty soon, and really start to dive into some options in terms of who the next quarterback at Tennessee could be. So I promise you, the conversation is, we're already shifting to that thought process, but then we're going to start getting some substance, some names, and everything. We're going to dive into them and look and see what pieces could fit in this offense as the show goes on. Nico Iamaleava is no longer here, but the show does go on for Josh Heupel and Tennessee. So appreciate Grant Ramey, plus his expertise on basketball, the latest with Rick Barnes' assimilation of his roster for the next season. All that and more right here at Locked On Vols. So we'll continue all this conversation, the latest in the transfer portal, all that and more on a Friday Locked On Vols. That's tomorrow. Until then, everybody enjoy the rest of your Thursday.